The morning sun lit up the Christmas tree farm, or what was left of it. A chainsaw lay in the snow, and 1,200 firs were reduced to stumps.
1,200 trees, 40 years of growth, gone in a day.
Rows upon rows of mature Fraser firs lay flattened, the smell of pine sap mixing with diesel. William knelt beside a fresh stump, ran his thumb over the sap-bleeding cut, and said nothing.
I did the neighborhood a favor. Those depressing trees have been blocking the view for decades.
You did this?
The HOA voted. We have the right to maintain community aesthetics.
William said nothing. He pulled out his phone and began photographing the destruction.
Mrs. Whitfield, can you tell our readers why you took down these trees?
William drove home in silence, the camera roll a complete record of the crime. Deborah's name would be on the front page. William went straight to the farmhouse office where a secured IRS laptop waited. 2 years ago, Deborah Whitfield stood at an HOA podium and called his family's 40-year-old farm a depressing eyesore. She had picketed his Christmas customers, filed false complaints, made his life a monthly bureaucratic war. Now, William opened the laptop. The screen lit up with a case file labeled Whitfield Design LLC, Ongoing Audit.
2 years of unreported income, fake expense vendors, cash payroll to day laborers.
He had been auditing her business long before she ever touched a chainsaw.
All that time, she never knew the farmer she mocked was the man inside the IRS holding her tax returns.
The file held enough evidence for a criminal referral. He had waited for the right trigger. Deborah had just destroyed $400,000 of inventory. She had no idea she had handed him the final piece for a federal case. The next morning, William drove to the IRS office with a fresh file under his arm.
You're earlier than usual, Ashford. The Whitfield case? I heard about your farm. That woman has crossed a line. Are you okay handling this?
I'm fine, Frank, but the audit just expanded. Look at this.
He opened a folder, revealing a list of cash payments to day laborers.
The same crew she hired to trim my trees, all paid in unreported cash.
That's criminal, and it links directly to the farm destruction. You've got a conflict here.
I know we'll keep the civil farm case completely separate. This stays a tax fraud investigation.
Frank nodded, trusting William's judgment. The case now had teeth. William walked out with the criminal referral forms in hand. Deborah still had no clue. The newspaper hit the stands with a photo of Deborah smiling among the stumps. The headline read, "Ho President Cleans Up Eyesore." Deputy Allen arrived at the farm that afternoon, a clipboard in hand and a cautious look on her face.
I'll file a criminal damage report, Mr. Ashford, but the HOA claims they had authority. It might be treated as civil.
I understand. Just document everything. The camera roll is all the evidence I need.
A car slowed on the road, and a voice shouted through the window, "Good riddance. Those trees were an eyesore." At her design studio, Deborah Whitfield was already on the phone with the sheriff's office, reminding them of her community service.
The farmer is just bitter. This is a civil dispute, not a crime. I'm sure the deputy understands.
Every insult, every dismissive wave, I am cataloging them all, and she has no idea what's coming.
The deputy's radio crackled with a message from the office, a subtle nudge to treat the case lightly. She sighed, finished her notes, and drove off. William stood alone among the stumps, his next move already half planned. 3 days later, the community hall was packed. Deborah Whitfield stood at the microphone, ready to frame her vandalism as public service.
Those trees depressed property values. I did what any responsible HOA president would do. Beautified our neighborhood.
William sat in the back row, arms crossed, his face unreadable. He said nothing, but his phone was recording.
Mrs. Whitfield, the farm has been a local institution since 1968. Aren't you worried about the community backlash?
Tradition isn't an excuse for blight. The community elected me to lead, and I'm leading.
After the meeting, in the parking lot, a hardware store owner pulled William aside. He didn't want his name used, but he pressed a card into William's hand.
A few allies. Quiet, but real. Enough for now.
2 families swore they'd buy their Christmas trees nowhere else. The first cracks in Deborah's public image were spreading. Angie Cole lingered behind, her notepad brimming. She'd be calling William soon. Late that night, William sat alone in his cubicle, cross-referencing expense ledgers under the pale glow of a desk lamp.
A deduction for property maintenance charged to a vendor that doesn't exist. She's not just hiding cash, she's inventing expenses.
He matched the day laborer's cash payments to a fake vendor named Evergreen Landscaping, a shell she deducted on her business return.
Frank, look at this. She paid the crew in cash, then created a fake deduction to write off the same expense. That's fraud.
Fake vendor, unreported payroll, and criminal damage to your property. This is a clear criminal case, William.
I need to push the criminal referral now. If we wait, she might start destroying records.
William spent the rest of the night compiling the evidence into a formal referral packet. Every fake vendor, every cash envelope, every stump documented.
Once this file hits the U.S. Attorney's desk, there's no pulling it back, but she left me no choice.
By sunrise, the referral sat on his supervisor's desk. He hadn't yet disclosed his personal connection. That would come later. Frank watched him leave, knowing the quiet farmer had just set a federal trap that Deborah Whitfield wouldn't see coming. Inside her design studio, Deborah Whitfield's phone rattled with a call from her tax attorney. The IRS was escalating fast.
Find out who's behind this audit. I don't care what it costs. Just make it go away.
She hired a pricey fixer to stall the audit, but by afternoon she'd moved to a more public weapon.
This farmer has been stalking my HOA work. I'm filing a countersuit for defamation and emotional distress.
The lawsuit was thin, but it would generate headlines and drain William's resources. A classic desperation move.
She's trying to strangle me with legal fees. It'll hurt, but it won't stop the criminal case.
A process server arrived at his farm the next morning, cameras from the local news rolling.
Now I'm a defendant, tied up in court while her business is still bleeding cash under the IRS microscope. She's buying time, but she still doesn't know my name is on the audit file. That's the only card that matters.
Deborah had thrown a legal grenade, but she was still fighting blind, and William intended to keep it that way. A certified letter from the insurance company arrived. The damage was intentional. Claim denied.
Of course, intentional damage voids the policy. Deborah just cost me another $100,000.
The phone rang. A loan officer's voice. The farm note was coming due, and there was no inventory to sell.
Foreclosure notice in 30 days. She planted this bomb when she cut those trees, and I'm standing right on it.
He checked his savings. Only $3,200 left. Legal fees had eaten everything.
$3,000 between me and losing a farm that's been in my family since 1968.
Across the room, a framed photo of his father and grandfather stood on a shelf, the first tree planted in '68.
Dad, Grandpa, I won't let her erase your lives. I'll use every tool I've got, even if I have to stand in the open.
He set the photo down and turned to the IRS laptop. The criminal referral was already in play, but now it was personal.
Deborah Whitfield, you think you can bury me? But I'm the one holding the shovel over your entire life.
Late evening, his phone buzzed with an anonymous tip. I worked for Whitfield. I have proof. Route 6 diner, 1 hour. He drove the empty back roads, checking his mirrors. In the diner's lot, a young woman in a hoodie waited under a flickering light.
She's trembling. If Deborah suspects a leak, she'll be in serious trouble.
She pressed a flash drive into his hand, whispering, "Recorded conversations. She paid us cash, told us to shred records."
Deborah's own voice, discussing how to hide income. This is better than I imagined.
He gave her a prepaid phone, told her to leave. She slipped into the dark without another word.
If Deborah discovers the leak, this woman is as good as dead.
Back at the farm, he inserted the drive. The first file, Deborah's sharp command, burn the appointment books.
That's her. All her arrogance, now a permanent record.
He encrypted the files and sent a coded message to Frank. Witness evidence secured. Criminal intent confirmed. The next morning, William and Frank presented the whistleblower evidence to a stone-faced regional director.
She's convinced. Criminal all the way. Your lead, Ashford.
Before we move, I need to disclose something. The farm Whitfield destroyed? It's been in my family since 1968.
Your farm? That's a direct conflict, William. You should have told us.
I'm telling you now, the audit is clean. I'll accept any monitoring the Bureau requires.
The director's pen hovered, then signed an oversight order. William could lead, but every step would be reviewed.
Oversight is fine. I've got nothing to hide except a family legacy she tried to erase.
Later, in Frank's cubicle, the tension hadn't eased.
If the media gets wind you're the auditor on your own case, this division gets crucified.
By nightfall, the criminal referral was live. Deborah Whitfield had no idea the trap was already sprung. A certified letter from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division landed on Deborah Whitfield's desk at 9 a.m., a formal notice of a criminal probe.
Criminal tax investigation? This isn't an audit. It's a declaration of war against me.
Her lawyer's voice cracked through the speakerphone. The investigation covered 3 years of returns, all cash disbursements, all vendors.
If they trace the cash to that tree crew, it's over. I need to move money now.
She called her broker and liquidated $200,000 in stocks within the hour, then started emptying a secondary business account. From his farm, William watched the transaction alerts populate on his secured IRS terminal. Each transfer was an additional obstruction charge.
Angie Cole? It's Deborah Whitfield. The IRS is harassing me for protecting our community. Will you cover it?
I've already got your tax attorney's number, Mrs. Whitfield. And your story keeps changing.
Angie Cole had been connecting dots since the town hall. Deborah's panic call only convinced her this was bigger than a tree dispute. The pieces were aligning, but Deborah still didn't know the name of the agent who had been auditing her for 2 years. 2 days later, Deborah stepped in front of a local news camera, pink coat bright under the studio lights.
I'm a small business owner being crushed by an out-of-control IRS. All I wanted was a clean, beautiful community.
But the station had already filmed silent footage. William walking among the stumps, his hands brushing the fresh cuts.
She paints herself a victim on television while my family's 60-year legacy lies in pieces.
The segment aired that evening, Deborah's rehearsed plea followed by the unvarnished image of a grieving farmer. Overnight, the station's phone lines lit up. A local hardware store started a donation jar, $200 by morning. A family posted on social media, "We bought our tree from Ashford Farm every year since 1998. We'll replant with him."
Deborah wanted to bury me in public scorn, but the community is starting to dig me out.
But the fight wasn't over. The IRS investigation was still seal pending, and Deborah's next move was already in motion. In the morning, a deputy would arrive with a new warrant, not for William, but for Deborah's business. The morning after the TV spot, Deborah's attorney called with a start. The IRS had disclosed the lead agent's credentials. He said, "The lead agent is a senior revenue agent and the chair of the entire Small Business Audit Division. This isn't random."
Someone on the IRS's highest chairs targeted me. This has to be personal. Who did I anger that could be that powerful? The ex-business partner? No, he's bankrupt. The contractor? Not a chance.
The tree farmer crossed her mind. She almost laughed. A man who sells Christmas trees couldn't possibly be an IRS division chair.
It's not the farmer. He's just a man with dirt under his nails. But I need to know who it is. Hire a private investigator.
Within hours, a private investigator was pulling records on every person Deborah had ever clashed with.
Dig all you want. The only name you'll find is the one you already dismissed.
The investigator started with property records, tax liens, and online profiles, searching for any trace of the IRS in Deborah's enemies. The hunt was on, but the fox was still hiding in plain sight. William's name wouldn't appear on any search result as an IRS agent, not yet.
William, her PI just pulled your county deed records. If they cross-reference with IRS property, your cover's blown.
Minutes, not days. I have to file the affidavit now and pray the arrest warrant comes before she finds me. Frank, I'm signing the criminal affidavit personally. My full title, William Ashford, Chair, Small Business Audit Division.
If they find out you're the auditor before the arrest, your career is dead. You know that, right?
My career doesn't matter if my father's farm is bulldozed and a whistleblower ends up hurt. This is the only way.
He signed his name, the title beneath it a declaration of war. William Ashford, Chair.
Done. With one signature, I've just bet everything on the IRS getting to her before she gets to me.
That night, the farmhouse was silent. William lay awake, listening to the wind and the creak of old wood.
If they arrest her first, this all ends. If not, every camera in town will be on a farmer who just signed his own destruction.
By dawn, he was at his desk, waiting. The affidavit was on its way, and Deborah was hours from the truth. Deborah's PI confirmed it. William Ashford was listed as an IRS employee. She scoffed. A low-level clerk, she assumed.
The farmer works for the IRS? That's rich! He's been using his badge to harass me. The press will love this.
By noon, an anonymous tip hit the local news. IRS employee William Ashford accused of harassment by HOA president.
She leaked my IRS job, thinking it hurts me, but she's handed me the perfect counterpunch.
William, it's Angie. The station wants a response. I think there's a bigger story here.
I'll come on air, but I'll talk about my farm and the 60-year legacy she destroyed, not the IRS.
That evening, William faced the same camera that had filmed Deborah's plea. He spoke only of his family's farm.
Yes, I work for the IRS. But those 1,200 trees that were cut down, that's not about my job. That's about a woman who thinks laws don't apply to her.
In her studio, Deborah watched, her fingers white on the remote. The farmer was turning her own weapon into a shield. Now the town knew William was IRS, but not the division chair, not the auditor. That secret still belonged to the man in the flannel shirt. The morning after the interview, public support solidified. The hardware store donation jar was overflowing.
The station is flooded with calls. People are on your side, William. Deborah's victim act is over.
She's isolated now, but the public can't do the real work. That belongs to the warrant.
At noon, Frank's voice came through the line, tight with controlled excitement. The U.S. attorney had just signed off.
Ashford, the arrest warrant for Deborah Whitfield is approved. Tax fraud, witness tampering, criminal damage.
When do they execute?
Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. You need to stay clear. Let the field agents handle it.
William stood at his window, looking out at the stumps. He had planned this for 2 years, but now it felt heavier than ever.
By tomorrow night, she'll know it was me, the man she dismissed as nothing.
The farm slept under a silent sky. In 12 hours, everything would change. At 7 a.m., IRS criminal agents and local deputies surrounded Whitfield Design Studio and Deborah's home simultaneously.
What is the meaning of this? Call my lawyer immediately.
She bolted for the back door, pink coat flying, but 2 agents blocked the alley. Her arms were pinned. She struggled, but the handcuffs closed with a final click.
They can't do this. I'm a community leader, not a criminal.
On the Ashford farm, William's phone buzzed with a single encrypted message. The screen read, "In custody, Deborah Whitfield."
2 years of waiting, 1 arrest, and now the hard part begins.
He allowed himself a small, tired smile, then looked out at the stumps. The real confrontation was still ahead. The farm was quiet, but the next step would take him back into the room where Deborah was waiting, unknowing. In a federal building, William Ashford walked down a gray hallway and pushed open the door to room 7. Inside, Deborah Whitfield sat handcuffed to a metal table, her pink coat still defiantly bright.
Oh, the farmer. Come to gloat? You're still nothing but dirt to me.
Williams said nothing. He placed a manila folder on the table and slid it across. The cover read, in bold letters, IRS Audit, Whitfield Design, lead agent, William Ashford chair.
What? This can't be. The farmer is the division chair?
I've been auditing you for 2 years, Deborah. The tree farm was the last straw.
You? You were the one? All this time?
The smirk on her face crumbled. The man she'd ridiculed had been holding her entire life in his hands. William leaned back, arms crossed. The truth was finally out. Weeks later, Deborah pleaded guilty to tax fraud and criminal damage. The court ordered full restitution. Her business was seized. $400,000 to William Ashford, payable within 90 days. The HOA was dissolved by county order. The community celebrated the end of Deborah's reign.
The farm note is paid, $400,000. The exact cost of those 1,200 trees.
News outlets told the story of the farmer who brought down a corrupt HOA president using the tax code.
Let them tell the story. I've got a farm to replant.
He was already marking the ground where new saplings would go. The donations from the community covered his legal fees.
My grandfather planted the first tree in 1968. I'll plant the next generation.
Neighbors who once jeered now offered their hands. The Ashford farm was no longer a battleground. It was a promise, and William intended to keep it. The first restitution check covered a delivery of 1,200 Fraser fir saplings, bundled and ready for soil. On a clear winter morning, trucks pulled up to the farm gate. Volunteers spilled out with shovels and work gloves. Deputy Allen knelt in the snow, her uniform traded for a heavy coat, pressing earth around a small sapling.
Never thought I'd trade a desk for a shovel, but there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
Families lined the rows, children laughing, the hardware store owner directing the flow of volunteers. A local news crew set up a camera, Angie Cole watching with a quiet smile as the fields began to green.
My grandfather started this farm in 1968. It will be here long after me.
He turned back to the soil, his hands dark with dirt, a sapling waiting for its home. By noon, the first rows stood like promises in the snow, a reborn patchwork of green against white. The farm was alive again, and William Ashford was planting his family's future, one tree at a time. Months later, the young firs rose knee-high, green needles soft against the evening sky. William Ashford walked the rows alone, a coffee cup warming his hands.
The audit file is closed. That chapter is done.
He still chaired the Small Business Audit Division, but today he was just a farmer. He hadn't just won a legal battle. He had restored his family's place in this soil. A pickup rolled past the gate. A neighbor waved. William lifted his cup in return. The farm lay calm, the only sound a soft wind through new branches.
She thought she could break me. Instead, she gave me the chance to rebuild.
He finished his coffee, the last light fading, and headed back to the farmhouse. The sign by the road still read, Ashford Tree Farm, Est, 1968. 1 year later, a snowy December morning broke over the farm. The first new trees were ready, small, but perfectly shaped. A family pulled up to the gate, laughing and pointing at the small trees, their boots crunching in fresh powder.
Welcome back to Ashford Tree Farm. What kind of tree are you looking for?
He walked them through the young rows, his hand brushing the snow-dusted branches, and told the story of the farm. They chose a modest fir, only waist-high, and the kids cheered as they carried it to the truck. The camera pulled back, revealing the full 40 acres, a patchwork of green that had returned. At the gate, the same wooden sign read, Ashford Tree Farm, Est, 1968. William Ashford still chaired the Small Business Audit Division, and still audited with that calm, knowing smile. But today, he was just a farmer who had kept his family's promise. Fade to black.